COVID-19 has changed every aspect of our global environment, with no stone left unturned, especially within the events industry. To help us navigate through, Tycoon Events has created your top 10 event health and safety tips during COVID. Live, hybrid, and in-person events. We've been patiently, scratch that anxiously awaiting their return, and we're on the edge of our proverbial seats with talks of relaunch strategies and a return to this new world of live event elements. While things may look a bit different from when we last gathered together, we've been diligently following the governing mandates and consulting with our industry peers and partners to stay up to speed. We're up for this exciting new challenge that will allow us to do what we love, creating connection through experience. But safety, comfort, and peace of mind must be at the forefront of all that we do. So, let's talk about how to make that happen. Step 1. Always reference the regulations and direction of your local health authorities and government mandates prior to any live event or in-person interaction. Step 2. Consider our top 10 event planner tips and considerations that relate to these known guidelines when planning live and in-person components as part of your event. With that, here are our tips and considerations. Notify all attendees and announce all of the steps being taken to prevent the risk of transmission and the importance of their roles in these measures. Support public health contact tracing efforts by encouraging all event participants to download the AB Trace Together app on their mobile devices and collecting the names and contact information of all attendees for these purposes. Create pre-event and active screening waivers for guests to sign before the event to avoid a bottleneck at registration. Reference the Alberta Health Daily Checklist on the AHS website. Offer non-invasive on-site screening checks for anyone entering the venues through controlled entry points. Set and communicate expectations for guests to stay home if they are presenting any known symptoms of COVID-19, while also reducing barriers to attending from home and mitigating social reprimand for doing so. Instruct guests experiencing symptoms on site to notify security immediately. Ensure that security and event staff are briefed and well informed on the emergency response plan. Include on-site event staff, vendors, and all attendees in the regulated maximum capacities for both indoor and outdoor venues. Opt for a venue that allows or includes as part of your rental the private reservation of common spaces for your event, as opposed to shared with external parties or the general public, for example, restrooms, change rooms, bars, check-in or registration areas, code check, etc. Implement a 2-meter physical distancing protocol to ensure that the presence of all guests, staff, vendors, and volunteers can be regulated in a safe and healthy manner. Stagger the arrivals and departures of all persons on site with dedicated entry and exit points to reduce contact exposure on site and control capacity. This includes guests, staff, volunteers, and vendors during loading and setup. Don't forget that this applies to loading schedules during setup and cleanup to enable distancing of staff, volunteers, and vendors at loading docks and entryways. Minimize the need for registration desks by offering online registration or tech-enabled entry. Install clear plastic partitions for interactions that cannot accommodate 2 meters of physical distance. Direct traffic flow and identify 2-meter spacing with wider aisles, signage, ropes, or floor decals in high traffic areas or where lineups may occur. Appoint a contact to direct traffic, enforce, and offer friendly reminders on expectations. Reconfigure layouts and encourage assigned seating to allow for 2-meter physical distancing. Encourage a contactless policy to mitigate shaking hands or exchanging business cards and other on-site collateral. Eliminate or reduce the number of items at the event that will be handled by multiple people, such as promotional materials, badges, lanyards, game pieces, touchable decor elements, etc. Eliminate paper handouts or event collateral that cannot be disinfected between handling. Leverage mobile programming elements and digital downloads of promotional materials as opposed to tangible giveaways. Implement a contact-free method for guests to greet one another and connect with one another throughout the event. Opt for multiple, appropriately distanced, self-service coat checks instead of providing a hosted coat check service. Recommend face masks throughout the full duration of event attendance, ensuring compliance with mandates for instances where it is difficult to maintain 2 meters distance. Exceptions may exist during the consumption of food or beverages. Masks can be created in the theme of the event using graphics, messaging, hashtags, and colors, and provided as a giveaway item to guests. Customized or color-coded masks can be used to group attendees and facilitate networking activities or interaction at a safe distance. Masks can be used to identify event staff to your guests, such as volunteers, service staff, event managers, and other key individuals. Frequent cleaning protocols must be implemented by all venue, event, and vendor team members to ensure thorough disinfection of high-touch shared surfaces and food or beverage service supplies. Rent disinfectant foggers. Choose facilities that are GBAC Star accredited. As part of your on-site staffing plan, assign a volunteer or event staff member to circulate and cross-check all high-touch shared surfaces and food or beverage supplies to ensure routine and frequent cleaning is taking place. Hand washing stations and personal sanitation options must be visible and accessible to all persons on site. Signage can be used to offer friendly reminders to guests to communicate expectations that they are required to abide by, or serve as a visual indicator that common spaces, tables, or seating options have been sanitized, and if ongoing throughout the event, at what frequency. Encourage guests to sanitize their hands before entering the venue and consider offering personal hand sanitizer as a takeaway item. Have gloves available for guests to use if they choose. Emergency response plans must be revised to include COVID-19 specific policies and procedures. This should include rapid identification and isolation in a designated area for attendees who develop symptoms throughout the duration of an event. Muster points and an exit strategy should consider physical distancing and maximum occupancies to enhance the health and safety of all guests. A rapid communication plan and list of emergency contacts should be established and able to be communicated to all guests. Consult with your venue and vendors to gain a thorough understanding of their unique procedures. Appoint a health and safety point person for the duration of your event to ensure protocols and guidelines are being followed. Ensure that the plan is shared with and understood by all key event staff, key on-site personnel, security, and vendors on-site at the event. Entertainment restrictions must be adhered to ensure the safety of performers, guests, and all persons on-site. Individualized protocols may apply based on the performance category or type as it relates to the risk of exposure. Reduced volume may lessen the need for guests to lean in closer to each other and/or raise their voices above the entertainment noise levels. Ensure that the performance area setup allows for ample distance between the area like the stage and the audience based on specific protocols. Avoid performances that require audience mingling or participation, reminding guests not to sing along. Games and other interactive activities should only occur if there are no shared items required and physical distance can be maintained. Ensure that green rooms are not shared between performers to avoid cross-contamination. Food and beverage options must be evaluated and closely monitored to ensure compliance with governing mandates and guidelines. Ensure menu selections can be facilitated through full-service models. Use prepackaged and single-serve items to mitigate contact. Ensure meal prep, packaging, and delivery protocols account for cleaning and disinfection, along with reduced contact and touch points for transfer or setup. Account for private meal prep areas and additional staffing to facilitate smooth and safe execution of the additional service and cleaning measures. Adhere to assigned seating guidelines for table capacity and minimizing the risk of multiple persons using the same chairs or place settings. Action stations or visible food prep areas not only add an element of entertainment to an event, but will also allow guests to see safe food prep procedures in action. Implement chef's table style experiences or tableside food preparation and cooking for seated groups and cohorts. That rounds up our top event planner tips and considerations that relate to these 10 known guidelines when planning live and in-person components as part of your event. We know, that's a lot to consider, and there will likely be many more considerations to come. As the protocols and guidelines change, so too will we, to ensure that your safety is a top priority in all that we do. And don't forget, with innovation comes a lot of new, exciting, and unique opportunities too. The Tycoons can bring your vision for event components, in-person, hybrid, or virtual events to life in a safe and responsible way for everyone. Head to our website to read your top 10 event health and safety tips during COVID.